Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new edition of Level Up Conversations.
Woo!
So, today's topic is why do we stay in relationships longer than we should?
Mm.
Um, Joe, would you like to start us off with what inspired this topic for today?
I saw a recent video on TikTok about this guy who put up a video talking about he was in a relationship for 2.5 years and left that relationship, met the next person, and got married in 6 months.
Wow. Okay.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I thought, well, let's talk about it. How did we get here? And why does this happen? You know?
Yes. Yes.
Hmm.
Lorraine, what are your thoughts?
I just really think, and I mean, I'm guilty of it too, staying in relationship longer than I should, and I think it's just being afraid to start over. Like this is really not going anywhere, but it's better than starting over, trying to find someone, getting to know someone. Um,
Mhm.
but especially today, it's dating is not what it used to be. I don't know what's going on. And the interesting thing is that everyone complains about the same thing. We
Hmm.
all
Hmm.
complain about dating has not been the greatest, but yet we're all out here. We're like in the same boat and we're all sinking together. So what do we do about it?
Wow. I think with that gentleman's TikTok video, because I saw it myself, there's like so many loopholes, so many like unanswered questions. Like, was he already, because it was apparently a high school sweetheart that he
Mhm.
reconnected with. So then I
Hmm.
wonder, was he in contact with this person while he was in his, long-term relationship? And then that's what sparked his exiting. Um, so was it a toxic relationship that he was in, or was it just one like you had said, Lorraine, that he just got really comfortable in and ended up staying longer than he should have? And then all of a sudden, he meets the next girl or reconnects with the next lady and ends up marrying her 6 months later.
Hmm.
But that's interesting that you said that maybe they were not I don't want to say hooking up, but maybe they were in contact with each other for
Right.
some time, because that's still strange too,
Right.
to
Mhm.
enter into a relationship with someone you haven't known, you haven't spoke with for many years,
Right.
and then you get married in 6 months. So what's going on there?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's not good either.
I
Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
agree with that. And to piggyback off of that, I mean, was it like an ex maybe that you dated and maybe it was like right person, wrong time then? To where
Hmm.
this time around you knew the rules of the game if you were going to be together, because how did you get to that 6 month
Mhm.
deadline that quickly? you
Right.
know was it more like, okay, if we're going to give this a chance, if we're going to try this again, you know what I want, and so here we are, and so maybe he had to step up? Or was it just something that naturally just progressed, but just progressed in 6 months? Which then, if that's the case, begs the question, were you was it more of like the person that you were with before just wasn't the right fit, and then you found the right fit and knew within 6 months, and that's why you married them? And that also like brings me to that point where they say men usually know. They
Yes.
know.
Mhm.
They know within the first, second meeting. They might not know that they're going to spend the rest of their lives with you, but they will know if there's a connection there and if this is something they want to pursue further. But to me, I just kind of feel like, I don't know, let's give it what, 2, 3 months. At that point, really, he should have known if he wanted to like marry the other person that he was with. He obviously knew within 6 months with this current person. So, what was it that stopped you with the other person? And if there was
Right.
something that stopped you with the other person, why string it along for 2.5 years then?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's just where
Mhm.
I'm like, you know what, you got to go where you're happiest the most. But like, what made you sit in a 2.5 year relationship, especially being the man, I guess? But you know what?
Mhm.
Today both people are gonna take accountability. So looking at it from his perspective and the idea that he's the one that's supposed to propose, if you knew you weren't interested or weren't gonna propose that long, why didn't you just like end it? But then
Right.
the other side of it, because the woman's got to take the accountability as well. So was she getting strung along and thought there was like something at the end of the, this tunnel? Like, it's just so many questions, Did she know? Was she getting
Yeah.
strung along? Like, what's what?
And that's
Mhm.
the interesting thing when we watch these TikToks. Um, it's it's a little bit of information in a little bit of time, and then we are left with these questions.
Mm-hmm.
And is he being real? I mean, is maybe he's not being honest. Maybe he's just doing that for clicks and views.
That is true. But
Because
even if he's not being honest, I think we've all seen it.
oh
So
yeah.
just in general with other people out there, women, like I think there was even another TikTok talking about how, some girl got married like I don't know in a year, and others were like, I'm still waiting for 10 years. I've been waiting for 12 years. So there's always that situation where, sometimes people just kind of like stay and I don't know. I mean,
And that is
you
the
know,
question. How long is too long?
exactly.
Hmm. That's
Hmm.
a great question. I think, like, even in the example of that particular gentleman, he was living with the woman for that 2.5 year period or
Hmm.
some, period of time. So I
Hmm.
think that he probably gained like some sort of comfort, getting used to his environment. Everything was comfortable for him. Everything was going well, or at least well enough for him to put up with whatever. Um, and then at whatever point that he knew it wasn't going to progress into marriage, he actually ended up moving out when I think he ended up moving out when he met the new girl. So
And I
that does make
started
it seem like he'd
smiling.
been talking to her before.
I started smiling because I thought about something in my past. When we talk about what was he waiting for? Because again, like I said, I will admit I've done it too, where I've lived with a guy and I waited for the lease to end. And then when the lease ended, I'm like, okay, I know where I'm going, but where are
That's
you going?
right.
Because we're both leaving here and you're not coming with me.
Right.
So, so it could be a situation like that where, he was like, well, I'm going to give it one more year. And then the lease ended. And then he was like, I'm out, you know. And I do feel that sometimes men do feel obligated to
Hmm.
stay. You do feel obligated to stay because you may not want to leave that person, holding the bag, so to speak.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so that was, his escape.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there's like so many layers to that scenario. But then again, there's that other thing where they say a man will have a woman as a placeholder while he's
Hmm.
looking for the one, you know? And again, that's another thing, most men, we know the stereotype of, a man never leaves without a second plan B, right? He's
Hmm.
not leaving to go sleep in an empty bed. He probably what happened in this situation while he was with her was talking to the other one. Now, maybe he was thinking, like, it's not cheating if I'm not sleeping with her. But I mean, to me, there's like emotional cheating as well. So you're
Yeah.
building this communication and connection with another female while you're still with this one. I mean, we can even argue that was part of the reason why this relationship wasn't working because emotionally you were connected somewhere else. You know,
Right. That's
maybe
a
they
good point.
you know what I mean? Maybe they connected well enough for him to feel comfortable that this is the person I want to be with. And then that was his time to now tell the current person, all right, well, it's been real. Thank you. You know what I mean? And
And
so it was just
and
a
that's
big.
another interesting point because he did state that right, he got with someone he knew from his past, which
Mm-hmm,
means they probably connected on Facebook, um, or some social media site. And
mm-hmm.
that I don't advocate. I believe once you're in a relationship now, should you scrub all your social media sites? I say yes. Because why are you keeping
Hmm.
them? I mean, I'm not into social media, so I don't know. Um, I don't know the reason for like advertising yourself. And I know, gosh, there's a Drake song when he says he doesn't have time for social media, and those friends are not your friends. And I agree. You
Yeah,
know, you
I don't
collect a
have.
bunch of people,
Yeah,
but they're not your friends.
Mhm.
it's true. It's very true. I think it could give like a false like, feeling of like I have all these followers and I have all these people that watch me and they're my friends and blah blah blah. Now I don't have any social media, and I think I decided if I ever choose to date again, I choose to date a person that doesn't have social media. But that also
Hmm.
means I'm not gonna fight with you if you have it. You're just
Exactly.
not for me. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like the one of the requirements, and that's what it is. Because, like you said, it comes with a lot of whatever, and not every man is like that. I know people are going to come in the comments like, well, I'm faithful to my wife and husband, and we've been together for however, but I have social media. Relax. All I'm saying is, I just want to eliminate one more possibility of something happening, and I don't have it, and I would want to be with somebody who doesn't for that particular reason. It
And,
doesn't start out as cheating. It doesn't usually start out there. It just like, you know?
and society took something good as social media and just turned it into something else. That's why there's so much bullying going on. Um, people are offing themselves. It's just a lot to go with social media, and there are people who take breaks from social media. Why would you take a break for something that's supposed to be good?
Yeah.
And and it's just not good. It takes away from people communicating with one another. I
Hmm.
mean, I've had family members who would argue through social media.
Like, what's the point? You can call each other. You can go see each other. Like in the real world, this whole virtual thing is getting out of control. It's getting out of hand. It's just ruining marriages, friendships, families, really everything. You know?
And I
Hmm.
think too, with social media, people feel like they have a pass, like you can say what you want to say because it's free speech.
Mm-hmm.
And when in fact it's not. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like, if you are not able to say that thing to someone's face, why do you feel that you can say it on social media? Like, that's supposed to be any better, And again, it takes away from the communication from relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and just like you said, Joe, most likely he probably disconnected himself anyway. He was disconnected.
Right. Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, we'll never really know the exactly what happened, but I could see that happening. He connected
Hmm.
with this one, and he might not realize it, but it took away from the other person. Like she didn't stand a chance. I mean,
Hmm.
what came before what? Maybe things weren't going that well, but regardless, there was no way of like working it out because he checked out maybe emotionally before he
Right,
physically packed up and left. You know,
Right.
so
right. And I mean,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
I really challenge everyone in the audience. I really challenge you to put down social media
Hmm.
and see what happens in your relationship. Will your relationship flourish? Will the communication part flourish? And I really believe it will.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
I
agree.
was thinking as you ladies were talking that I know part of the reason why a lot of people end up staying in relationships longer than they should, and I've been guilty of it myself, is just that level of comfort.
Mhm.
You're used to the person. It's kind of, and it's not to, you know, dog the person that you're with, but it's better to deal with the devil that you know than the one that you don't know.
Hmm.
Because as
Yeah.
Lorraine said, it's just getting crazier and crazier out there with the
Mhm.
dating scene. And
Mhm.
you know, you have all of these sites like Bumble and Tinder and I don't even know whatever else. But you know, the point is that people in some respects have become more savage because they are hiding behind the social media platform in
Hmm.
which they're meeting someone. They can paint a picture of themselves that isn't completely accurate. And then you jump into a relationship or jump into getting acquainted with them only to find out they're absolutely nothing like the way they portray themselves online.
Right. Right. So
Mm.
so then would we call that just settling?
That's
or
a hard one. That's a hard one. I think
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it could be looked at as settling if you're with someone for a long period of time. I would actually only consider it settling if you're with someone for a long period of time and it's not making a natural progression. You guys are
Mhm.
kind of like stuck in a rut. You're like used to each other. You're used to a routine. You're used to going out every Saturday, or you're used to seeing each other, for your monthly date night or whatever. You're used to whatever it is that you guys are used to. You got into this routine. You kind of have taken not taking advantage, but taking for granted the other person. And you
Mhm.
aren't really putting in the work that needs to happen in order for the relationship to continue to grow.
Mhm.
And settling that, I find that to be interesting about the English language.
Mhm.
One word can mean so many things,
Right.
Mhm.
because some people would say, oh, that's settling, and some people will say, well, I just re-examined my needs and wants, and even though he may not be everything that I want, he may be what I need right now. So is that settling?
Wow.
I mean, I I think that as long as somebody re-examines and determines this is the person I want after careful consideration and they're meeting my needs and all that stuff, at that point, that's not settling because I mean you're content. You're happy. You're happy to be here. But as long as, based on the question, why do we stay in relationships longer than we should? The idea of longer than we should means that there's something there that's not exactly what you want,
Hmm.
right? Because if everything was good, then I mean you want to stay forever or till you get married until death do you part. So for in my understanding of it, as long as your needs are not being met, and that means a lot of things because obviously there's like relationships as far as like boyfriend and girlfriend, and then there's relationships as far as marriage. So for me, those are the two relationships that come to mind, and those things come with different things, right? Because are you boyfriend and girlfriend and want to get married, and the other person doesn't, or are you married but then just unhappy and therefore you're staying instead of getting a divorce?
So,
Hmm.
and if you're staying because you don't want to get a divorce, is that settling?
To me, it is. I
Because
mean,
people stay married. They say, "Oh, we're staying married for the children."
For each other.
So, is that settling? And then some people say, like our couple that was the royal black couple who they said they're never getting divorced.
mhm.
Will and Jada, they're never getting divorced. So, are they settling?
Hmm.
Because
I
things are definitely not going right there.
I mean,
Right.
I would say that they're not, and I'll tell you why. Because they have said for us divorce is not an option, right? We no couple is perfect. We have our ups and downs, but we still love each other and we're strong together. I mean, so to me that's very different from a couple that says I'm unhappy, I wish I could get out, but I'm sticking it out for the children.
But for them, they don't need to stick it out for their children because their children are grown.
They're
Right.
grown.
They
They
still
out on their
choose
own.
to stay.
And and there was and out of Jada's mouth, she said she never wanted to be married. She
Hmm.
doesn't want to be married.
Hmm.
So now, are you settling when you know that you don't want to be married? You're married, and now you're saying you're not going anywhere. So who is really settling?
I mean,
Wow.
I get what you're saying, but the thing is, if she never wanted to get married, what is her point? Why is she there?
She
Hmm.
was there because she was pregnant and didn't want to be a single mom without being married. So she got married.
I mean,
Mm.
then
And
she
now that the children are older, you know, now they're trying to figure out how to repackage their relationship so that they can stay married. So
I,
is that settling?
I feel like when she got married for the children, then at that time, I think she settled. To me, settling is anytime your needs are not being met, but you choose to stay.
Hmm.
Whatever that means, your needs are not being met, whatever that means to you, but you choose to stay. To me, that's settling. But if they've come full circle and now they can leave, but they're like, you know what, we want to stay married, we just have to like figure out how this is going to work for us. To me, that sounds like a willing participant. Sounds like somebody who's like, I want to be here. You know what I mean? Let's figure out how this is going to go. I want to be here, because they can always divorce, but they're actually choosing
But it
not
has
to.
to be a mutual, it has to be a mutual belief system. So if Will's of the opinion that I will never get divorced, and Jada's kind of on the fence, like, well, you know, I got married for the kids, then someone is settling. Someone is getting less than the best out of their partner. Because with the marriage, you have that emotional support. You're supposed to have that um, mental support, physical support, financial support. And if your needs aren't being met, I personally think definitely emotionally, it makes it very difficult for you to feel like you and your partner are in it 100%. Your needs are being met, and that there's a satisfaction, and not just satisfaction and contentment, not just, oh, it's convenient because we've been together for so long, so why break up a good thing, or something that looks like it's working. Um, so in my opinion, I think there's definitely settling going on.
And for me, I would think I would feel bad as the other person is like, okay, you're not leaving because you're settling to be with me. So, what does that say about me? Like,
Mhm.
you're going to settle with me because it's just cheaper to keep you here, you know, and we can just live separate lives in the same home. And I do know couples who are like that, who
Mhm.
live
Hmm.
separate lives in the same home.
Wow.
That to me is definitely settling. But going back to Will and Jada, my understanding of their situation is, I thought Jada said we agreed earlier on in our relationship that divorce was not an option. So my understanding of it was they agreed that divorce was not an option. But
Mhm.
if you're now saying that one person said divorce is not an option and the other one is basically like, I want out, definitely, then those are two different scenarios. 100%. Like one person, it almost sounds like a hostage situation at that point.
Hmm. And that's what divorce is sometimes, where
I
one
mean,
person wants out and the other person don't want out. And there's this movie, and it's funny, but it's not funny, and it's called War of the Roses.
Oh
And
yeah.
I love that movie because it's like two people are struggling, and the actor Danny DeVito, and he says, how do you how is it? How do you keep someone who doesn't want to stay? And how do you? Oh man, I forgot that saying. It's like, how do you keep someone who doesn't want to stay? And how do you get rid of someone who doesn't want to leave? It's something like that,
I
you
mean,
know, because they're both just fighting with each other. And then at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, they both wind up dead, and they wind up with nothing because they were just too busy fighting each other over
uh-huh,
materialistic things,
uh-huh.
the
Mhm.
house, the cars, and it's like, well, I did the majority of the work, so these things belong to me,
Mm.
and it goes back to the things with the manosphere has been saying, where the man is the breadwinner and the woman stays at home. Okay, now what happens when it's time to separate? How much does the woman get? And that's what
Mhm.
the movie was saying, was that the woman was saying, Kathleen Turner, she said, well, granted, you paid the mortgage, but I picked out all the furnishings in the home,
Hmm.
so why should I not get the home?
I mean,
So how much is she entitled to?
listen, I think that she's entitled to half. As far as I'm concerned, if you're out working and I'm home doing the work, whatever, at home with the kids and the household and everything, you get to come home. I said this before, I'll say it again. You get to come home and enjoy as much as the rest of us in this household. So you're not coming in, and why are we not saying percentages? Like, I imagine me as a wife saying, well, no, you're only going to spend an hour out of 12 hours with the children because I'm the primary care. No, you come in, you eat just like everybody else, you sleep in a nice bed, you enjoy the comforts of the household, which is clean, your laundry is done, everything's taken care of. And that allows you to go to work and make that money because I'm home taking care of the kids and running the household. So what I'm doing is benefiting you 100%. So what you do benefits me 100%. So if we have to now separate, I get half. It's just like mind blowing to me. It's common sense. Like, you couldn't run the way you do if I didn't do what I do on the home
Right.
front.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That's just what it is. I mean, even if I worked and my husband stayed home, yeah, right. But like I'm saying, like even if I was the one working and the man stayed home, I would still think this way because, how can I do what I do if they don't do what they do? It's like a partnership,
Right.
you
And
know?
that's definitely a topic for another discussion about men staying home. And it's not in a sense role reversal, but will it be role reversal if there's a Mr. Mom? Will there be would the relationship dynamic change? Is a woman not a woman?
Like,
Hmm.
Can a man be an alpha male? As what the manosphere say, can a man be an alpha male if he's a stay at home man?
Hmm.
So that's definitely a topic
so much to say
that we
Yeah.
that
we
one.
need to discuss.
I can't wait. We definitely should do that one next because that one will be interesting.
I
But
agree. I agree.
why do we
So, any
stay in
final thoughts on
relationships?
this one?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. Why do we stay in relationships longer than we should? I think it just like we all said, it just comes down to comfortability. You
Mhm.
know,
Hmm. Hmm.
I
I
mean,
even
agree.
though one person is suffering, one
yeah,
person suffers. But really, is it one person suffering? I believe two people will suffer. Both people will suffer because if one person is suffering, that means that that person is not doing something for the other person. That
mhm,
person is not giving of themselves,
Hmm.
to the other person. So both people will suffer. And I
Yeah.
honestly believe one person does not spoil a relationship. Two people create a relationship and two people can wreck a relationship.
yeah,
Hmm.
agreed. I definitely agree with that. And that one to me has nothing to do with gender. Like really
Right.
it could be the man, it could be the woman. But while we were saying that, I just thought of something. Like, I do think sometimes people stay out of fear. Um
Hmm.
and that like opens a whole nother door as far as like things like mental health, as far as things like abuse, you know.
Hmm.
um we didn't even touch on that, but sometimes people stay because they're so scared that if they leave they're essentially going to be unalived, you know what I mean, and they get abused, and and they just stay.
And you know what? It's okay to be afraid. Just plot and scheme your escape.
Yeah, yeah,
Put that money away, go apartment hunting, and
Yeah.
wait for that lease to be up and do
yeah.
the countdown on the calendar.
That
You
one
know,
kind of
have an
scary.
alarm on your phone. And that day the alarm rings, that is the day you leave.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you gotta be very careful, and that's a whole nother topic. There's got to be
Well, yeah,
gotta be
I'm
careful
saying,
what
but
you
in
buy.
relation to why do you
Yes.
stay,
Hmm. Hmm.
plot your escape. I mean, and you
Hmm.
know what? And not I not only say that for relationships. I've said that for jobs that I've had.
Hmm.
On
Hmm.
my first day of work, I'm already plotting to leave.
Right.
I'm plotting my escape. I'm still sending out resumes. I'm still interviewing at lunchtime, or I'm taking off from work at lunchtime. I'm putting away money to know that, okay, if I'm gonna be out of work for 2 weeks, I have money set aside until I start the new job. So I'm already plotting and scheming for
Hmm.
my escape. So I do the relationships the same way. Sometimes it comes down to that,
Yeah.
because just like you said, sometimes it may come down to he may not let me leave or she may not let me leave, you know. And if the lease is coming to an end, I'm not going to sign it.
Right.
I'm going to be out. You can keep the furniture.
Mm.
Just
Furniture.
situations like that you get help and make sure you do it right so you can get out, because there's been cases where people were not able to get out, because that is the most dangerous time in an abusive relationship, is when the other person's trying to leave.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're safe and you do the research and you get all the necessary resources, and just make sure you do it right. But yeah, I thought that would be another reason why people stay. um, I guess what I would say is uh, self-reflecting, introspecting, and just really understanding your worth is a good place to start when it comes to relationship, or just in general. Like, even for me as a single person, I try to do that anyway. So that way, if your needs are not being met in a relationship, you can kind of like understand where your worth is and where your values are. And then, hopefully, if your needs and wants are not aligning, you can then determine that you need to leave. Because we can talk about this until the cows come home, but I feel like a lot of times when people don't really maybe know their worth, or as far as they're concerned, they feel like this is what they're worth, so therefore they
Mhm.
stay.
Mhm.
Understanding your worth and moving accordingly, I think, is important.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree that self-reflection makes a big difference because, like I stated earlier, each person needs to contribute to a relationship in order for it to grow. I think
Mhm.
part of that growth is the self-reflection and, still checking in with yourself to see, is this relationship still beneficial for me? Am I a benefit and a blessing for the other person that I'm with? Or has it stagnated and we need to reevaluate and go separate ways, or figure out a way to, switch it up so that it's something that continues to grow?
And
So, yeah.
going back to planning your escape, I've heard stories where, and I know people have joked about this, where one person go out for a pack of cigarettes and never return.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
It was
never
out of
return.
control.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know how I would feel about that. It's like somebody said,
So hey,
I
it happens,
I mean,
and it's not like they
oh,
disappeared. They just, they left the relationship.
I mean, really, is it that serious that you can't just
For
say,
some
like,
people, it's
Sometimes
been
it
that
is, I
serious.
guess.
I mean,
Hmm.
wow. Like, you can't just be like, this is not working. It's just like, I'm going to get, like, you don't even smoke. I know. It's like, it's like,
I mean, that's like an old, actually ghosting is a
Mhm.
new edition of that,
right.
where
Wow.
I'm leaving, I'll be back. So you think I'll be back, but I know I'm not coming back. And I just ghost.
I mean, we laugh about it, but I know there's people that have been traumatized by it. A hundred
Mhm.
percent, I'm sure, because I
Mhm.
think I would be just as confused. Imagine like being married and your husband just like goes out for groceries and never comes home. Like, there's
Hmm.
so many problems with
Yeah, because you're thinking, oh, did something really happen?
right. You're calling the
Yes.
cops. By the time you get to the point where you've checked off all the boxes and like he's not dead somewhere, he just like left. I mean, I could see that really traumatizing a person, you know?
Mhm.
So I guess that begs us saying that if you're going to do it, really just think about the other person, think about how you would want somebody to like break up with you, try to do it the right way, and like afford them a conversation, if possible, and all that other good stuff. Because uh,
And
I,
that would lead me to therapy, to think that someone has to escape from
yeah,
me.
Hmm.
yeah,
Like, you really can't, you know,
you can't just
you,
tell me.
yeah, you can't just say you're done.
like,
Now I'm
yeah,
in therapy because now people are escaping from me. That's really hard to
yeah,
swallow.
that's
I mean,
sick. That is
that's
problematic.
really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
yes.
and you know how people ask, and I don't know why they ask this question, but they always ask, well, what happened in your last relationship? I'm definitely not going to say he escaped from me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that. So sorry. He went for a pack of cigarettes, and I don't understand because
I mean,
we don't smoke.
you know, that's what I'm
Like,
saying.
so
Like,
I don't
what
know,
do you
but
mean?
communication. That's
Yes.
And if someone wants out, let them out.
Hmm.
Let them
Yes.
out.
And that's the other side of it. Exactly. If somebody wants out, let them out. Like, do you want somebody there because you're holding them hostage? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that really how you,
Right. Exactly.
what is the value of this relationship to you if you have to like keep somebody there? You know what I mean? Yeah.
And
That,
then
that
people,
point is not love.
and you know what?
Yeah.
You brought up another point, because people do play these emotional games,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where you
Yes.
say, "Oh, I'm going to leave," and then the person may, say they want to off themselves, or
Mhm.
they just do things. They try to manipulate you to keep you in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship, so you stay in. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, really, is that how you want me? Again,
Right.
Mhm.
that's holding me hostage.
But some people are twisted because we've heard cases of people saying, if I can't have you, no one else will. So I think sometimes there's issues where like there's a mental issue they are where they're not thinking logically like we're talking about. Like we're like, is that how you want me? Yes, that's how they want you. That is
Mhm.
however they have you is how they will take it. You know what I mean? They're just like, I
And
don't care. I want you. I don't care if I have to tie you down and keep you hostage in this household. We've heard of cases like that as well.
and that's
That-
dangerous. Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's mm-mm.
But like in a normal capacity, I think it does go back to know your worth, do your self-reflection, introspection, understanding what it is you need, what you'll bring into the table as well, and what you want to get out of it. And then hopefully that means you don't stay longer than you should. Why do we stay in relationships longer than we should? Do the work, do the internal work so you do not stay longer. Because every minute that you stay in a relationship that you shouldn't be in is a minute that you're taken away from the relationship that you should have been in. You know,
Exactly.
you're literally standing in the way of your own happiness. So it's just better to do the work, to leave, and go find your person. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, thank you, ladies. Leave your comments below. We would love to hear what it is that you think about our topic for today. And you can always reach us at levelupconvo@gmail.com. See you soon.
See ya.